Hey everyone, welcome back to the series. Don't ask me why am I wearing a half sleeves over sweater. Please don't ask me. And continuing with the series, today we have with us Ankita from XLRI Jamshedpur, batch of 22 to 24. Ankita, welcome to the series. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ankita.
Yeah, Ankita, could you please give us a brief profile background before you entered XLRI?
Okay, so I am an engineering student. So I did my primary and secondary schooling from ICSE background.
Okay.
And then I pursued my BTech degree in computer science. I got it from IST Shivpur, and then I started working as an analyst with ZS Associates.
Right.
And I worked with them about a year as an analyst, and then I changed my track to business consulting and another 3 more years in consulting domain. And that's when I actually tried that I would rather go for a different career path. I would try to go for an MBA, which is more suited for my profile, my location preferences. And that's when I decided to answer that.
Right. Perfect. And Ankita, you talked about like 4 years of WorkX, right? So how many times did you appear for that exam?
This was, I think, the second time that I appeared. Initially, I had prepared last year as well, but it did not work out very well. But this year around, I was able to clear that.
Right, perfect. And Ankita, could you please give us what was your percentile in that?
So my percentile overall stood at 94.37 from a general engineering female background.
Right.
It was very close to the cutoffs, but that's around the marks on which you have cutoffs for HRM program.
Right, perfect. And Ankita, 94.37 percentile, right? So how did you approach that? Like, when did you start preparing for the ZAT exam, and what were your tips and tricks that you followed?
So ZAT exams are usually at the start of January, the first week in around. So I started sometime around September, and I was working during that time. It was work and along with that preparation. So I used to divide my time and prepare for ZAT for this 3 months, and during that time I took a lot of leaves as well. Now these leaves were like pretty combined. For example, I used to take leaves on Friday and Monday, and they would like call us with the weekend, so I'd get a 4-day long leave and I could do my prep. And this went on for about 3 months. Towards the end of December, I started focusing on decision making as well, and for that, and there was this website which I found, Handa Ka Funda, which was really helpful. There is some paid subscription to that as well, but I tried the free part, and it did yield good outcomes for me in terms of decision making. And the remaining of the syllabus I finished from one of the Arun Sharma books. Since I was working, and I had worked for a long time back then. So for me, coaching classes did not make a lot of sense because I had to spare the time for coaching and then work and then come back and revise that. So I did home study only mostly, but it was very focused during that time.
Right.
And took me 3 complete months of complete focus and a little less loaded projects to be able to clear it.
Perfect. And Ankita, you talked about Handa Ka Funda, right? So I think in that there's also a section of GK, right? So how do you approach that GK section?
So the GK section, what our strategy was, what were the recent wins that were there in terms of, like me and my friend are very interested in football. We both appeared together. So we got out all the recent news about football, and there was apparently a question over there. So when we talk about general knowledge, it's a very vast pool. It doesn't start anywhere and end anywhere. It's like infinity pool. So just have to target a few things. For example, if you're interested in sports, be up to date with sports. If you're interested in, let's say, music, be up to date with music. If you're interested in history, some people are from civil services background. They are very good at those questions. So you have to just work on that strength. There's one additional part where you can score, which earned us brownie points, was learning a little about XL alumni. XLRI alums are venturing out into Indian defense sector, CHROs of global companies right now, fashion industry, starting from fashion to all the different sectors. So knowing about the recent trends, recent people who have achieved a lot in their lives, who are from XLRI, you can expect a question or two from there as well. So that really helps. Being up to date on XL news. So if you're confident that there are a few questions which you can tackle and you know the answers, and you are confident that you have gotten the 100%, boosts your confidence a lot, because it's more or less like an endless game. And there might be a chance, like people who do civil services prep, they have a better grasp over general knowledge, but it is more to do with the three sub areas, major areas. For example, the quant, maths, and final decision making, which actually make a lot of difference. General knowledge is not something which is included in the marks, but that of course is a part of the selection criteria.
Right, perfect. And Ankita, you talked about that you are currently enrolled in the HRM program of XLRI Jamshedpur,
Yes.
right? So with that percentile, did you target only the HRM course, or the BM course was also part of your strategy?
I only targeted HRM. I did not enter for BM. So XLRI, mostly over time, me being a native of Jamshedpur, has always believed it's more of an HR college. Of course, the BM program is unbeatable, but there is always a bias, me being from this place, that has more to do with it. I always wanted to do an HR job, an HR role, building my career towards becoming a CHRO with a global presence. So that was my aim, and that's what I appeared for. So that was mostly it.
Yeah, so you said that the BM program of XLRI is also unbeatable. So could you please shed a light on the differences between the HRM and the BM course, apart from the courses that are already there in the program?
Okay, so most of the subjects in term and MBA are generic subjects. For example, strategy, marketing, that's both HR. Any MBA graduate being from BM or HR has to do. There are certain subjects which really make a difference. For example, law has a huge role to play when it comes to HR programs and knowing the HR trends, transitional transformation roles. They are really important. Law is important. And knowing about policy was really important in current affairs. That is not as much weight in BM programs. Their focus is more towards finance subjects. Although finances are very, it's kind of limited to first term, and then eventually you get one of few subjects in the second term. But for BM, it's more like continued finance study. For HR, it's more towards a few subjects are more inclined towards laws, labor laws, employment contracts. That is mostly it. When it comes to an MBA, one is the course structure, which is really important. The other thing is the placements. Is there a difference between the placement and companies? There's not a lot of difference, or in fact, there is no difference between what you can appear as an HR or you can appear as a BM person. And just depends what you see and what you want for yourself in the future, and that's how you build your personality, and that's how you build your candidature when companies come. And that is totally independent of which program you're pursuing.
Right.
But having said that, there are ample of roles for both HR positions and general management as well.
Perfect. Ankita, my next question may haunt you, but why MBA for Ankita? Why MBA in HRM for Ankita?
So while I was working at ZS the last 2 years, I got a promotion and I got promoted as a team lead. So I had to work with multiple people and decide a lot many things for them. There was little groundwork that I had to do rather than designing their trajectories, day-to-day work, and that takes a lot of understanding what is the background, what would they want to do in their short-term and long-term profiles, and trying to learn how to read employment in terms of quantifying employment. People say it's very random, you can get fired, you can get hired. That's not the case. So that's when it interested me, knowing about people, knowing about policies, trying to plan out career trajectories. So people trying to see what all opportunities you have, making those decisions which involve workforce at a very prominent level rather than directly organization. So if you're trying to make a change in an organization, you can do it directly, you can do it through people. HR drives it mostly through people. I'm actually interested in that part of the work, therefore HR.
Right, perfect. And Ankita, now 94.37%, right? So what is that one thing that actually helped you crack the XAT exam with that percentile? Like you talked about, you took just 3 months, right? So, but 3 months is less time for, it may sound a less time for the individuals who are preparing for the XAT exam, but what is that one thing that you followed which helped you crack the ZAT exam?
I would say it's more or less it's very proportional. So people have been preparing for over a long time. They have even better percentiles than I have. So it's a give and take relationship. At some point of time, we would also need to balance how much do I need to do to get there, how much would be perfect for me. You should always aim for the highest, but having said that, it also depends on the bandwidth you have. For me personally, what worked out was discipline. So it's very difficult to be able to sit down for a long time, answer an exam, study for that long, those subjects which I have studied long ago in my 10th and 12th standard. That took a lot of sitting there and starting it all over again. So the first few weeks, I couldn't get any momentum. I was just covering the topics in most of the subjects. And I couldn't grab momentum. I did not know where I stood. But eventually, as I started covering those subjects and I started doing those in my time, marking questions and solving them, I gained pace. And I did not opt for a coaching or a test series. It really makes a difference for a lot of people, but I could not because of time constraints. But I practiced it all at home. It took a lot of discipline to be able to sit for that long and be able to answer it. But I usually used to, there's one thing which I practice with. I usually used to do it during the time when they organize ZAT exams. For example, during the day, most of the people do it towards the end of the day, in the night when they are done with their chores. But I usually prefer to do it on the actual time. That helped me balance my routine on the exam day. No washroom breaks or anything, and be prepped with every day. And making a calendar that, okay, this day, this has to be completed. I need to complete a certain select few subjects by this time. I need to be able to do maths at this particular speed. Timing everything is important. If it helps, keep a stopwatch near you. Time your questions very properly. And any question that takes more than 1.5 minutes, do not get stuck on it if time permits. And play by your strengths. For example, some people would want to do certain subjects ahead and certain subjects later, planning what works best for them, because towards the end of an exam, your mind is towards the edge of getting exhausted. So trying to understand which subject is your best. And for me, since I did not take any test series, it was very difficult to understand which one is best because I did not have scores in front of me. So you need to do that analysis by yourself. Take some effort, take some time. Your momentum would be slow, but eventually it gets there. It takes about a month to grab that momentum, but once it's there, you just need to be present at that time of the day and finish it off.
Right, perfect. So Ankita, you mentioned that no mock series, right? So I really want to know that how did you get that rhythm during the ZAT exam? Like if you did not give any mock, yet you were able to manage your time well during the exam. How did you do that?
So I used to just, I had a book, Arun Sharma book. It was an old one. So my brother appeared for this exam and he got through one of the good places. We had his books left over. So I used to mark 30 questions in the book on all the topics for all the three. And in one sitting, I used to solve all those. Based on the ZAT pattern, I used to solve as many questions in that given time. It's just that I did not solve it or looking at a computer screen. I used to book for that. I used to mark 30 that, okay, this 1 to 30 is today's set of questions, level 1 and level 2 questions from that book. And I used to just finish it during that time. Mine was very physical work oriented. I would rather recommend people who have time on the calendar go for tests. They're easy, they're easily administered. And if they fit your time, it's the best. But I'm more like old school in those things. So I'm more like a sitting person. Open a book, mark the questions, solve them in the time frame. In fact, when you set your time frame, set it 15 minutes less than the actual ZAT time so that you can gain speed as well. So that was how it worked out for me.
Right, perfect. And one thing I can assure you that to do that, to complete that in that way, you need a lot of discipline. So I can so yeah, Ankita, so let's talk about this XLRI interview, right? So did you appear for the GD round in XLRI, or XLRI conducts a GD round or not?
So during my time, they mentioned in the letters, they would mention that GD/PI would be there. But since it was online, I only had a personal interview round. You can take your date for personal interview. I took it sometime around 7th March this year. Right. That was neither too late, that was neither too early. And it was slightly around the middle of the time frame they give you. And I took a midday timing. It was around 2 to 2:30. I just had a single one. My friends who appeared for BM had one BM, one HR, so they had to manage two. And even before the interview start, there's a write-up that you have to write a few questions that they asked as to why XLRI and the career trajectory that you have had. till now. And once you answer those questions, they take it as a submission, and then you have to appear on the interview day. And the interview is mostly 3 people on the panel, and they'd ask you some questions which are associated with your career, how and what, like basically inspired you to come over here. There would be certain technical questions. Mine was very work experience heavy because I had a lot of work experience, and these were not questions like what tools you worked on or something. These are like what was the challenge and how did you come out of the challenge. So they want very application specific answers to everything. So you have to be very quick when they ask questions. Even if those things are from your childhood, it does not matter. One of my questions I answered was from one of my childhood interests, but you have to be very prompt. These are all real life situations. They won't ask any bookish questions. But it could be slightly different for people who are freshers because they are just from college. But for me, it was work experience. It was mostly understanding. And during that time, we had a war going on. It is still going on, I guess, today. The Ukraine-Russia war.
Right.
There was a question around that. It could get slightly political. So I would say keep it non-political. Or that also depends on the pattern that you have. And one of my questions were also associated with how much I read and how much knowledge that I have about things. It's not necessarily the knowledge about the world. It could be about books as well. It could be fiction, non-fiction. It was highly specific in that. And there was one question on finance and how do you plan, how do you save tax. Tax was one question that they said, like you might be paying a lot of tax, and all it went around that direction. And he asked me, how do you manage that right now? How would you go on about it in the future when you would be crossing the tax bucket? So these were the questions. Around these, we got questions. I got questions.
Right, perfect. And Ankita, you mentioned that your interview happened on 7th March, right? So
yes.
How much time did it take you to actually prepare for the GDPI?
So for GDPI, I actually went to XLRI's website. You would see the syllabus for HR. There, if you go to specific HR subjects, you will see a lot of focus on laws, labor laws, and welfare things, and a lot many things which are HR specific by HR domain. What is the core competency required for HR? So I did slight Google searches for this, but I spent 2 weekends over this preparing for interview, and all that time I answered the behavioral questions, which are generic behavior questions. For example, why XLRI? Because when you used to work, what was the big challenge you faced in a team? How did you tackle it? Thinking about those answers in my head, that took me about a weekend. And the second weekend, I mostly focused on learning about HR streams, programs. I had some knowledge, very brief knowledge, but then I had to get a little more to be able to feel confident enough to sit in that interview. So some HR reading is also needed because you can then orient your answers in that direction, which was what I did. Took me 2 weekends, Saturday, Sunday combined, to finish this off.
Right, perfect. So Ankita, now I think we should wind up our interview here only. But do you have any final words for our CAT/ZAT aspirants who are preparing for their exam as well as their GDPIs?
I would say confidence makes a huge difference over there. Do keep your confidence high. There might be questions you might not know answers to. I did not for one of them. It did not make a lot of difference. You can clearly say, can you give me more information over this for me to be able to think about it? If you can, well and good. And of course, panelists definitely will give you hints around what they want from you. So try to grab onto those hints. Students generally prepare their interviews in a way that I want to say these things, so I am going to say this. But interviews are slightly different in a sense that they want to know something from you, and they're going to lead you on to that. Try to hold on to those cues. Try to limit your answers to 50 seconds mostly. That 10-20 seconds they take to observe, and they give you a new clue, or they take the question forward. Always provide something for a follow-up question. For example, when you're talking about which city you stay in, say something about that city, something which other people don't know, so that they can carry that conversation forward. Give them something to carry that conversation forward. It will always roll out in your favor. Rather than them asking random questions, it would be like you are driving the interview, they giving you the cues, and you tapping onto the cues.
Right, perfect, Ankita. So I think we should wind up our interview here only. And to all of viewers, We hope we were able to add some value to your preparation. And to Ankita, thank you so much for doing it. I know how hectic the schedule of
Thank
XLRI can
you.
be, but thank you for sparing time for this. Thank you so much.
No worries. I'm glad I was able to do this. Thank you so much.